It was 2 a.m., the kind of hour where the world feels empty and you start believing nothing can see you. I was driving alone on a snow-covered road, surrounded by silence so thick it felt alive. No radio, no other cars, just the sound of snow hitting metal. That's when I realized something was wrong, because even in total isolation, I wasn't alone. Put on your headphones, turn off the lights, and listen closely. This is a true story that happened on a snowy road, and whatever was out there never showed its face. This story was told to me by someone I trust, someone I've known for years. They're not the kind of person who exaggerates things or looks for attention. They don't even like talking about personal stuff that much. So when they finally told me this, they asked me not to mention their name. They said they didn't want people trying to look it up, didn't want anyone asking questions, didn't want reminders. And after hearing everything they went through that night, I understood exactly why. They told me it happened just after 2 in the morning. Not exactly 2, but close enough that the night already felt heavy. That hour when most people are asleep, when roads feel different, when even familiar places start to look unfamiliar. They had just finished a long shift, one of those days where your body is tired but your mind won't slow down. All they wanted was to get home, take a shower, and sleep. Normally, they would have taken the main road. It's longer, but it's safer. More lights, more traffic, but that night, with the snow starting to fall, they decided to take a shortcut, a rural road that cuts through miles of empty land. Technically faster, practically empty. Almost no one uses it late at night, especially during winter. They'd driven that road before, a few times during the day. It never bothered them then. Just trees, open fields, and the occasional old fence buried under snow. But at night, at 2 in the morning, it felt like a completely different place. Snow had started falling harder than they expected. Not a full-blown storm, no strong wind, no chaos, just thick, steady snowflakes coming down non-stop. Enough to slowly blur the road ahead, enough to make everything look softer, quieter, almost unreal. The kind of snow that doesn't scare you right away, but slowly changes everything around you. There were no other cars, none behind them, none coming from the opposite direction, not even distant headlights. No houses either, no warm lights in the distance, no signs of life, just darkness stretching out beyond the reach of the headlights. No streetlights, just their car moving forward, cutting a narrow path through falling white. They said at first it actually felt peaceful, almost calming, like the world had decided to shut itself off for the night, like everything unnecessary had been removed. No traffic noise, no city sounds, no distractions, just the road and the snow. The kind of quiet you don't usually get anymore. The radio barely worked. Static faded in and out between stations. Music would come through for a few seconds, then disappear again. Voices cut off mid-sentence. Eventually, they turned it off. The silence felt better than the broken sound. They checked their phone. No signal. Not even one bar. That didn't surprise them too much. That road was known for bad reception. Still, something about seeing no service on the screen made the car feel smaller, more isolated. As they kept driving, they noticed how the snow seemed to swallow every sound. The tires barely made noise against the road. There was no wind howling through the trees, no animals, no distant hum of civilization. Even their own breathing felt too loud inside the car. It wasn't normal silence. It was the kind of silence that presses against you. They told me it felt like the world had been muted, like someone had turned the volume all the way down and left it there. The snow didn't crunch, the trees didn't creak, nothing echoed. Sound didn't travel. It just stopped. At some point, they realized they'd been gripping the steering wheel tighter than necessary. Their shoulders were tense. Not because they were scared, not yet. More like their body had noticed something their mind hadn't caught up to. They tried to relax, took a deep breath, told themselves they were just tired. Long shift, late night, winter weather, nothing more than that. But the feeling didn't go away. The road stretched on, straight and narrow, disappearing into the snowfall ahead. Headlights revealed only a short distance, everything beyond that swallowed by darkness and white. It felt like driving into nothing. That's when they noticed something strange. The quiet didn't feel empty. It felt focused. They said it's hard to explain. It wasn't like hearing a noise or seeing something move. It was more like the silence itself had weight, like it wasn't random, like it was doing something, like it was waiting. They turned the radio back on for a moment just to break the feeling. Static again. A voice tried to come through, distorted and distant. It didn't help. Somehow the broken sound made it worse. They shut it off again. They rolled the window down just a little, expecting to hear the wind or snow hitting the car or anything at all. Nothing. Just dead quiet. That's when it hit them. The silence didn't feel natural. It felt intentional. Like everything around them was aware they were there and had decided not to make a sound. They laughed softly to themselves. A nervous habit. Told themselves they were overthinking it. People do that at night, especially when you're alone, especially when you're tired. Still, they checked the rearview mirror. Empty road behind them, snow-covered and untouched. They looked ahead again. The road seemed narrower now, though they knew it wasn't. Trees stood on both sides, dark shapes barely visible beyond the headlights. Their branches were heavy with snow, hanging low, unmoving. No wind, no sway, just stillness. They said it felt like driving through a photograph, like the world had frozen in place except for their car. The longer they drove, the more aware they became of every small movement, the hum of the engine, the faint vibration through the steering wheel, the sound of their own breath, their heartbeat, steady but louder than it should have been. They hadn't seen a single sign of life for miles. No animals crossing the road, no distant lights, no tracks in the snow except their own tires. And yet, they couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't alone out there. Not in a dramatic way, not like something was chasing them, just the quiet certainty that something else existed in that space with them. Something unseen, something close enough to matter. They told me it wasn't fear at first, it was awareness. The kind that creeps up slowly, without warning. The kind that makes you sit a little straighter in your seat. The kind that makes you stop tapping your fingers, stop humming, stop doing anything unnecessary. As if making noise would be a mistake. They slowed down without realizing it. Their foot eased off the gas, the car gliding forward more carefully now. The headlights revealed more snow, more darkness, more nothing. But the feeling grew heavier. They remember thinking how strange it was that the road felt longer than usual, like it was stretching, like it didn't want to end. They checked the time again. Only a few minutes had passed. It felt like much longer. They swallowed, cleared their throat, and spoke out loud, just to hear a human voice, just to prove to themselves that nothing was wrong. "Almost home," they said. The words sounded wrong in the car, too loud, too sharp, like they didn't belong there. After that, they didn't speak again. They told me that looking back now, that was the moment everything changed. Not because anything obvious happened, but because that was when they realized the silence wasn't just around them. It was paying attention. And the road ahead wasn't as empty as it looked. They told me that after a while, the feeling stopped being something they could ignore. At first, it was just a thought at the back of their mind, easy to brush off, easy to explain away. But the longer they stayed on that road, the more that thought started pushing forward, demanding attention. They became painfully aware of their surroundings. Every shadow beyond the headlights felt deeper than it should have been. Every dark space between the trees felt deliberate, like gaps left open on purpose. Their eyes kept drifting to the edges of the road, scanning without really knowing what they were looking for. Nothing moved, and that somehow made it worse. They adjusted the mirror again, even though they had already checked it less than a minute ago. The road behind them was empty, smooth, untouched, except for their own tire tracks slowly being erased by falling snow. They told themselves that if something was out there, anything at all, they would have seen it by now. That logic didn't help, because the feeling didn't come from what they saw. It came from what they couldn't. They described it like this. Imagine sitting alone in a dark room, convinced someone else is there with you, not because you hear footsteps or see a shadow, but because the air feels different, like your presence has been acknowledged. That's what it felt like in the car. The inside of the vehicle suddenly felt smaller. The windows felt thinner. The darkness outside felt closer, pressing against the glass. They noticed their breathing had changed, shallow, controlled, like they were trying not to make noise even though they were completely alone. Their hands tightened around the steering wheel again. They tried to ground themselves, look at the speedometer, the fuel gauge, normal things, familiar things, proof that this was just another drive, just another night. But then they realized something else. They hadn't blinked in a while. Their eyes felt dry, strained from staring too hard into the dark, from trying to catch movement that never came, from expecting something to appear at any second. They forced themselves to blink, to look down, to relax their face. That's when they felt it again. Stronger. The sensation of being watched wasn't coming from ahead of them. It felt like it was coming from the side. They didn't turn their head right away. They told me that was the first truly scary part, not the thought itself, but the hesitation, the instinctive understanding that looking might be a mistake. They kept their eyes on the road, heart beating just a little faster now, not racing, not panicking, just enough to remind them that their body was reacting whether they wanted it to or not. They counted their breaths. 1, 2, 3. Then slowly, they glanced toward the passenger side window. Nothing. Just snow sliding past in the headlights' glow, darkness beyond that, trees standing motionless, heavy with white. They exhaled, annoyed at themselves. That's when they noticed the reflection, not in the window, in the glass of the dashboard. A shape where there shouldn't have been one. It wasn't clear, not defined, just a darker patch against the already dim reflection, like a shadow layered on top of another shadow. They blinked. The reflection shifted, just slightly. They froze. Their eyes darted back to the window. Still nothing outside. They looked down again. The reflection was gone. Their hearts skipped, just once. They told themselves it was lighting, snow, fatigue, anything but what their instincts were whispering. But once you notice something like that, you can't unnotice it. From that moment on, every reflective surface inside the car felt suspicious. The side mirror, the rearview mirror, even the faint shine on the steering wheel. They stopped checking the mirrors as often, not because they were less scared, because they were afraid of what they might see. The road curved slightly, bending left and then straightening out again. The car followed the curve, tires crunching softly through snow. The sound was muted, wrong, like it was being swallowed before it could travel. They noticed their ears popping, like a pressure change. That didn't make sense. They swallowed, hard. The feeling in the car shifted again. Subtle, but undeniable, like something had changed its position. Not closer, not farther, just different. They told me they felt stupid for thinking this, but it was like the space around them had rearranged itself, like the silence had leaned in. They turned the heater down a bit. The air felt too warm now, too thick. Their palms were sweating, even though the temperature inside the car was low. Their mind started racing, searching for explanations. Maybe it was stress. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe the isolation was messing with them. Humans aren't meant to be alone like that, in total quiet, in the middle of nowhere. They almost laughed again. Almost. Then they saw something ahead. At first, it looked like nothing, just a slight disturbance in the snow, barely visible through the falling light. Something that didn't quite match the smooth surface of the road. They slowed down instinctively. As they got closer, the headlights revealed it more clearly. Footprints. Human footprints. Right there, in the middle of the road. They weren't old. They weren't half-covered. They were fresh, crisp, defined, as if someone had walked through moments ago. Their stomach dropped. They told me their first thought was that someone's car must have broken down. Maybe someone had been walking for help. That was the logical explanation. But the logic fell apart almost immediately. There were no tire tracks pulled over to the side, no signs of a vehicle, no footprints leading off the road. Just a straight line of steps going forward. They followed the footprints slowly, heart pounding now, no longer subtle. Each footprint passed under the car, disappearing beneath the hood. Then, they stopped. The footprints didn't fade. They didn't turn. They didn't scatter. They just ended. Right there, in the center of the road. As if whoever made them had simply vanished. They slammed on the brakes without thinking. The car skidded slightly, stopping just short of where the prints disappeared. The engine idled loudly in the sudden stillness, the sound feeling intrusive, wrong. They stared at the empty snow ahead. Nothing moved. Nothing appeared. The world held its breath. They said that was the moment fear finally took over. Not panic, fear. The cold, steady kind that settles deep in your chest and stays there. Their thoughts became sharp, focused, survival-focused. Get out of here. They reached for their phone again, even though they knew it was pointless. No signal. The screen felt like a useless piece of plastic in their hand. They dropped it into the cup holder and gripped the steering wheel, ready to drive. That's when the engine coughed. Just once. A brief stutter. Enough. Their heart leapt into their throat. The headlights flickered, not off, just enough to notice. In the side mirror, something shifted. They didn't look directly. They couldn't. They saw it from the corner of their eye. A darker shape inside the darkness. Too close. Much too close. Not touching the car, but close enough that if the lights went out. They told me they never saw a face, never saw eyes, just the sense of mass, of presence, of something occupying space where nothing should have been. The engine roared back to life. They didn't wait. They hit the gas. The car lurched forward, passing the place where the footprints had ended. Snow sprayed up behind them, erasing what little evidence there had been. They didn't check the mirrors. They didn't slow down. They focused on the thin stretch of road illuminated ahead, praying for headlights, for signs, for anything familiar. As they sped away, the feeling didn't disappear. It stayed, right there, like it was still watching. And they knew, without seeing anything else, whatever had been on that road had noticed them long before they noticed it. They said the road didn't end when it was supposed to. They had driven that route enough times to know where the turn should be, where the trees thin out, where the first sign of civilization appears. But no matter how long they kept driving, the scenery refused to change. Snow, trees, darkness, over and over again. At first, they thought it was just their nerves messing with their sense of time. Fear can stretch minutes into hours. That's normal. They tried to focus on the rhythm of the road, the hum of the engine, the simple fact that the car was still moving forward. But the speedometer said otherwise. They were going faster now, much faster than before. And still, nothing. No intersections, no signs, no lights, just the same stretch of road repeating itself like a bad memory. That's when they noticed the snow wasn't falling the same way anymore. It wasn't drifting down, it was moving sideways. Not with the wind, because there was still no wind. It was as if the snow was adjusting itself around the car, sliding past it, avoiding it. They felt a chill crawl up their spine, and not from the cold. They told me they finally checked the rearview mirror and immediately wished they hadn't. The road behind them looked wrong. The tire tracks they should have left behind were gone. Not covered, not faded, gone. As if the car had never passed through at all. Panic started to rise then, sharp and sudden. Their breathing became uneven, their hands trembled on the wheel. They tried to slow it down, tried to stay calm, but their body was already ahead of their thoughts. They told themselves they needed proof, something real, something solid. So they did something they still regret. They stopped the car. The engine cut off, and the silence rushed in instantly, heavier than before, pressing against the doors, against the windows, against their chest. They sat there, frozen, listening. Nothing. No footsteps, no movement, no sound of snow hitting the car. Just quiet. Then, a soft tap. Not on the window, not on the roof, on the back of the car. One single tap. They felt it more than they heard it. Their hearts slammed against their ribs. Their mouth went dry. Every instinct screamed at them to stay still, to not acknowledge it, to pretend nothing had happened. They counted their breaths again. 1, 2. Another tap. Closer this time. Not aggressive. Not demanding. Patient. They whispered no under their breath without realizing it. The tap came again. This time, right next to them, on the passenger side door. Their eyes locked on the window. The glass reflected nothing but darkness and falling snow. No shape, no movement, but the sense of presence was overwhelming now. It wasn't outside the car. It was right there, aware. They reached for the door lock, even though it was already locked. The click sounded far too loud in the silence. Then the tapping stopped. For a moment, they felt relief. And that's when the smell hit them. Cold air mixed with something else. Something old, something damp and metallic, like snow that had soaked into something that shouldn't be buried. Their stomach turned. Slowly, against every instinct they had, they lifted their eyes to the side mirror. And this time, they saw it. Not clearly. Never clearly. But enough. A shape standing too close to the car. Tall, but hunched. Its outline blurred, like it didn't fully exist in the same space. The snow passed through parts of it, like it wasn't solid. It didn't have eyes. At least, none they could see. But they knew, absolutely knew, it was looking directly at them. They felt exposed, seen in a way that had nothing to do with vision. Then, the shape moved. Not stepping, not walking. It leaned toward the window, and they heard it. Not a voice, not a word. A sound, low and close, like breath dragged through ice, right outside the glass. They screamed then. Finally, the sound tore out of them, breaking the silence violently. Their hands fumbled for the keys, their vision blurring with panic. The engine roared back to life, the headlights flared, and the shape vanished. They didn't wait to see where it went. They drove, faster than they thought possible. The car shook as it tore down the road, snow flying past in blinding streaks. Their chest burned, their throat hurt from screaming. Tears streamed down their face, but they didn't wipe them away. They just kept driving. And then, lights. Real lights. Street lights. A highway sign. They almost laughed, almost cried again. They merged onto the highway without slowing down, surrounded now by open space and distant traffic. The snow eased. The world felt loud again, alive. They didn't stop until they reached home. They said they didn't sleep that night. They sat in their car for a long time after parking, staring at the windshield, waiting for their hands to stop shaking. When they finally went inside, they locked every door, checked every window, turned on every light. Days passed, then weeks. They tried to forget it, tried to convince themselves it had been stress, fatigue, a trick of the mind. Until one morning, when they went outside and saw something in the snow beside their car. Footprints, human, leading up to the driver's side door and stopping right there. If this story sent chills down your spine, don't forget to like this video. It really helps the channel grow. Have you ever experienced something strange during a late-night drive or a snowy night? Share your story in the comments or tell us what kind of horror story you want to hear next. And if you enjoy true horror stories, dark narration, and creepy encounters, subscribe to The Whispering Shadows and turn on notifications for new stories every week. Because some shadows never stop whispering.